Hey guys, welcome to my channel Hairliciously. I hope all of you guys have been doing fantastic. Today I wanted to talk about the topic of hair transplant scars and one of the methods that you guys can do to get rid of them. Now obviously if you guys go to a good hair transplant doctor and end up getting either an FUE or FUT, if the doctor does a really good job, then you really don't have to worry about scars. But any doctor who tells you that you're not going to get any scars from a hair transplant is lying to you. And so I would advise that if a doctor does tell you that, then I would look the other way and look for another hair transplant doctor. To get started, for those who are new to hair transplantation, there's two different methods when it comes to performing a hair transplant. One of them is the FUE and the other one is the FUT. The one that I got was the FUE because the FUE is a lot more less invasive. It's more useful for people who are trying to cut their hair short because with the FUE, you're pretty much extracting single hair follicles in the back of your scalp using an extractor tool, whereas the FUT is a lot more invasive because the doctor would have to go to the back of your scalp and then cut out a strip of hair and then start the extraction from the strip. So both FUE and the FUT have their pros and cons. For example, the FUT is useful when you have good laxity in the back of your scalp. You can get numerous FUT procedures resulting in just one linear scar, which is going to be from the back of your scalp. And so sometimes when you when you walk around the mall or when you're walking around different places and you see people with a big linear scar on the back of their scalp that kind of resembles a smiley face, chances are that they ended up getting an FUT. A lot of the new clinics are trying to get away from that because the FUE is a lot more less invasive and it's not gonna leave a big scar like the FUT. But obviously the FUT is a lot cheaper. The only thing you really have to worry about is possible scar stretching. And that's why I really wanted to talk about one of the methods that you guys can do if you guys are really concerned with scars on the scalp. The FUE will also leave scars, except for it's going to be tiny little dots scattered all through the back of your scalp. That's the one I got because I like to wear my hair shorter sometimes, and if I do decide to shave my head, it's going to be, well, the scars are going to be a lot more less noticeable than an FUT. And the only thing is the FUEs are a little bit more expensive because they're more time consuming, and there's a higher risk of transection from an FUE because the doctors would have to individually extract each graft. So here are some pictures of people who've actually had hair transplant procedures. The first set of pictures are going to be from the FUE. This is the one where the doctors extract each follicle from the back of the scalp. And you guys can notice that, even with an FUE, the scars are still visible. They are a lot more minimal compared with the FUT, but you guys can still see the scars. And some people are very self-conscious when it comes to scars. Other people might have bigger scars due to, the stretching of the scars, the errors when it comes to the doctors, or just the fact that the person didn't really take the proper care to make sure that these scars weren't going to stretch. Here's a set of pictures from somebody who's actually had an FUT. Notice how the scar is from year to year. It's linear and it's more pronounced. And like I said, it's going to be more of an invasive procedure because the doctor is pretty much extracting a strip on the back of your scalp and sewing it together. A lot of people who actually get the FUT end up with scars that stretch out. But if you end up going to a good doctor, the doctor should do a good job of closing up the wound so that the scars won't be as noticeable. But either way, as you guys can see in the pictures, FUT is still going to leave some scars. So there's different methods that you guys can do to get rid of scars. Some people end up getting more transplants into the areas where their scars are. This is more so seen in people with FUT scars. The doctor pretty much extracts some of the scars via FUE, and then they start implanting it into the scars. Now, one of the problems is that sometimes the hairs might grow into the scars, other times it's not going to grow. So it's more of a 50-50 chance where you're kind of risking the possibility that the grafts will not survive in the scars. The other method, the method that I do prefer if you guys do end up wanting to get rid of your hair transplant scars, is to go with a scalp micro-pigmentation known as SMP. So the good thing about SMP is that it's kind of like a tattoo, except for that they don't use ink when it comes to the actual tattooing. So if you guys have ever gotten a tattoo, it's going to fade over time because they're actually using blue ink. Initially it might look black, but over time there's going to be this coloration, and then ultimately it's going to turn into this nasty looking bluish color, and this, just kind of change color, so you're going to end up having to go back and then get it re-inked. But the good thing about SMP is that they don't use ink. They actually use something called pigmentation. And so if you go to the right clinic that actually does SMP, they're going to end up using real organic pigments, which are going to be in the combination of black, brown, gray, to recreate the natural looking hair on your scalp. And like I said, if you go to the right clinic that offers SMP, a lot of their pigments have been tested through light, sunlight, camera flashlight, whatever it is, to really stand the test of time, to make sure that it's going to look realistic and that it's not going to blur over the duration of the pigmentation. Now, they do fade after a certain number of years, but that's when you have to go back to get a retouch up. But it's not like a tattoo where you're actually inked and it's going to change colorations. So here are some good pictures of some before and after shots of people who've actually had SMPs to cover the scars due to hair transplants, and even people who've just naturally had scars for whatever reason, to blended it into their scalp. So notice just how naturally it looks and how well that it blends into the rest of the hairs. This is very useful also for people who end up suffering from a severe form of hair loss. This can be a good alternative to create an illusion of hair. You're not really going to get any hair back because the SMP is not 3D. It's not going to bring back new hair. It's just an illusion of when you shave your head. If you guys are interested, if you guys were kind of worried about the FUT scars, there are different methods that you guys can approach to get rid of the scars, and SMP, in my opinion, is one of the better ways to kind of conceal that scar. So if you guys have any questions, let me know. Feel free to subscribe, like this video, and also if you guys actually had a procedure via SMP, let me know what your experiences were, and then if it came out to the way that you wanted it to be. But that's it for today. Thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you guys soon. Take care.